like making prayers and letting go of different pains, different things, and preparing for new things to come into your life and stuff. It's very, very big. It's, like one of the biggest ceremonies that you can do as a Lakota or a Dakota or Nakota person. Um, and I think it's more over here now too. There's just events in like the Spelum or something. Um, but like these ceremonies and things are ways that we take care of ourselves and that we pray, and it's more than just like a physical thing or a prayer spiritual thing. It's emotional and it's like it has so many facets to it. So, but I know that for like the clinical perspective, a lot of people have a hard time understanding those ceremonies, understanding how they can benefit people because it's not Western medicine, it's not therapies, that they're familiar with, and so it's kind of like, well, how does this work exactly? And so it's really hard to quantify the value of it, and it's just kind of like, well, I mean, there is no like clear value that you can put on this to like benefit a person's physical, mental, spiritual well-being, but it does. I can tell you for sure it does. And like these different ways of taking care of ourselves and different things are very valuable for certain people, not all people. Not all people engage in these ceremonies, and I totally respect that. It's how my family has done things, and like that, and like doing sweats and stuff, been a part of my life forever. Like I remember my dad always having a sweat in my backyard, whether it was here in Ashland or whether it's in Kellerman. It's always been a part of my life. And like I value it as a place to go. And I helped bring that to the treatment center in Keller too. I helped build the first sweat house that they had there because it was so important to have that as a part of the healing process with people that were there. And for, like me personally, but then also for the people that needed that outlet and for the people who wanted to be introduced to that. Because some people have never been a part of that. They didn't know anything about it. And it was really, really beautiful to be a part of, like that introduction and say like, hey, like this is a part of your culture and let me introduce it to you and give it to you as a tool. And maybe it will benefit you, maybe it won't. It depends, on your outlook and how open you are to the process, but it can help you in real tangible ways, just not just physically, because it's super beneficial physically as well. I think it like people call it like a foot bath or like comparing it to a sauna and stuff. It's really awesome in those regards. But for Native people, it has like a deep spiritual meaning as well, and it can be beneficial in those respects. So. All right, so standard culturally responsive care continues. Standard notions of functioning well-being should be continually questioned and modified depending on what goals the person has for themselves. Clinicians and those who work with the public need to be emphasized to the multiple and overlapping types of trauma that people experience in their lifetimes and should specifically assess ethnic minorities who are included in race-based treatment. It is irresponsible to try and avoid issues of race and discrimination due to the virus. So, a barrier to care can be just the fear of touching that trauma because it's too big, it's too intense, it's scary, it's intimidating, and all these different things, right? Um, and you don't see how it impacts your physical well-being and it's relevant. But it is. Like we talked about earlier, you can't follow these and keep them separate. They manifest in different ways, and those are physical ways as well. So when we're looking at these, we can't say, oh, I don't really want to talk about your trauma and how it might be impacting your diabetes or your, like heart health and stuff because it's icky and I don't like it. Because we have to engage in those difficult discussions in order to have like real healing and like healthy people. We have to engage in those sort of things. We have to talk about openly, like what's going on in your family and what happened in your past and all these different things. And it's scary and it's intense. Trauma is not fun. I've been doing trauma work personally on myself for a while, and it is not fun. I can say that definitively. Um, but if I didn't go through the process of unpacking that trauma, then I wouldn't be where I am today. It would just not, it wouldn't happen. Because it would get in the way of, like me advancing in my career and my aspirations and all these things and hold me back. And, you know, I was struggling with, before I started working on my trauma and stuff, I was struggling with pre-diabetes and stuff and obesity and all these different things. And, like understanding how my trauma impacted those parts of my body was important to understand how I could reverse that and start working on making myself healthy more all around, like, like all of the different, like mental, physical, emotional, like it was important for all of those parts. And so when we're here and we're talking about the community that we're serving, we need to be able to address those things because they can impact us.
Do you have any thoughts or suggestions about the healthier way to approach that? So if it's irresponsible to avoid, stands to reason it's responsible to bring up, talk about. Any suggestions how to do that in a way that doesn't create more difficulty, build higher walls, barriers?
I think the best way to do that would be to bring in like foreign liaisons. Um, not gonna lie, the people that are in between that you as a person, and not to say that you are incapable of talking to people on a human to human level, but you have this professional lens, and having someone that serves in between, because that was my role when I was working at the treatment center, was as, like the cultural specialist who worked in between those roles. And it was really important to have someone in that role that could communicate both sides and say like, hey, I understand your perspective as a Native person from this community because, boxes are checked right in those things. But at the same time, like these are experiences that I have had and this is how it's impacted me. And is it possible that those things are what's going on with you too? Is it possible that, like your is manifesting in these different ways and would these different services help you? Are you willing to give these different things a try? To open that door for them to say like, hey, I understand that these traumas can impact all of these areas of your life. And once you can see that too in a real way and you can see like, oh, I never thought about the fact that, like these abuses that I have endured might have an impact on, like my weight or, like any of these different things like my health and stuff. And that if I work towards addressing them, then I might start to heal those other parts of my body, start to heal, like myself in different ways. Because it's really important to have that soft handoff where you have someone who you're talking to and able to connect with who isn't that hard like clinical value. Where, like I can come to and say like, and I know, from this, that, or the other thing that you have this kind of purpose. And maybe, like we can work through that together and, like get you to a place of healing.
So potentially, like family members, if there isn't a designated or identified, could be a good resource for something like that.
Having, like a family has gone through that process thing and you can see the benefit that like this different, like service might provide. And hey, I think that like this might help you. And having them there through the process kind of maybe that handout point and being like, hey, I will hold your hand and like help you through this if you want me to. and so that they're, like more willing to go through it and have that sense of trust.
Yeah.
Because that's really, really important, the trust. Um, because if you can trust you with, like what's going on with me and think that you can handle it, then, like we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, trust leads to safety, and safety is one of those pieces that you need for me, right? You got to feel safe.
Yeah.
What you're talking about sounds like really the key to why um, so many people, even here in this clinic, don't get better. I've worked here for about 7 or 8 years, and before this, I worked in a clinic with all different kinds of people in Spokane, and it's just profound how accepting you become of A1Cs 9 and 10 not going to change. And I wonder, you're talking about family, but I don't have time to do what you're talking about, even if I spent a lot of time trying to learn it more. There's just no way. So I wonder, even as you're talking, if there's a possibility that we could get some people like you that could almost be like an option for everyone. Would you like to talk to somebody like this? That'd be great. That'd be so great. Because it could potentially fix some of this problem. And people don't want to be overweight and diabetic. Nobody does.
Well, and I mean, that's kind of where you have, like the community workers and stuff that can help in that capacity as well. I mean, for my mom, she had diabetes, and getting her to get help is really hard. It's super duper hard. You have to drag her to the clinic and get, like herself.
And why is that? She just doesn't want to be here, doesn't think she can understand what we're trying to tell her, or she doesn't agree with most of it, or it's a bunch of trauma.
Well, it has to do with trauma, but it also has to do with the idea that like you need to take these drugs, you need to do these things, and like she's like, well, what about the alternatives? Because there are alternatives.
But it's like I get new age people too. You know what I mean? It's like I can't learn all that. Some people might be more interested, but I have to give what I know. And so that's difficult because it's like, well, I don't discourage people, but I can't speak to, is this safe? Can I do this with that? You know what I mean? So that's a big deal. That's a big one of the part.
Well, see, and that's where the research that they were doing with Empire Health comes in.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to make sure that there were options for people who wanted to go down, like the more traditional medicine route. And they were doing that in this field with the IHS clinic there. Trying to have people who were informed and able to help them with those sort of things. And I don't know how well that's going or anything, because I never kept up with it right after I left. But I know that like that is something that they had been working on. And I know, like I'm not saying that everyone here needs to be like a professional on, like traditional medicines and different things, but like having someone that you can say like, oh, this person knows these things, and I can definitely refer you to them for, like those options.
Another good hire.
It almost seems to me if we had something as such, and there was a referral made to that particular service, if you will, that it ends up noted and we have conversation about, and let's still keep tracking this, and the proof would be in the pudding, so to speak, that, if doing that, the premise is A1Cs will get better. And so then come back and let's measure after you've connected with them for a while. And if you can document this change is happening, isn't that what we're looking for? And does it have to be the Western European medicine that reaches it? So it's not that, like, if I'm a medical provider, it's not me saying this is what you need to do to take care of this, so therefore I'm at risk or liability for what I'm giving. I'm referring you to the expert. Does that make sense?
She went to an elder and asked about what options they knew of, and she was doing like some sort of tea and an herbal supplement, and she lost a bunch of weight. I think like maybe close to 20 pounds. thing. And she got her numbers much more under control through that alternative route. And you know, it's just that was the way that she wanted to do it. She didn't want to be dependent on any medications, and she didn't want to have to get to the point where she needed insulin either, because diabetes is real bad in my family, and some of my family used to get the shots and stuff, and she was terrified of that because it was, you know, like so intense. And we have horror stories of diabetes in my family. It's like, oh, so and so was driving down the road, they went blind, and they wrecked, and it was horrible, and all these things. And she didn't want that. She definitely wanted to manage her diabetes, but at the same time, she was just like, I don't know what to do because I don't want to take the drugs. And as someone who was in recovery, she was really, really big on not taking any kind of medication and drug. She wanted to be able to do something more traditional so that she didn't have to do that. And I definitely respect that because she doesn't even take pain meds. And I'm just like, you got a headache, you got all this stuff over here. I'm like, hand me the Tylenol, the, you know, granted, I have limitations and stuff, but, you know, like, I'm more, I'll do that, it's fine. Whereas she was just like, no, no, you don't understand. Like, those stuff, you don't want to mess with that sort of thing and other stuff. And I'm like, this is true. I've never had, you know, any of those issues. I don't know what it's like. And, you know, like, I can't speak to those experiences, but I respect you and your experiences and your beliefs and how you do this. And so, you know, like, let's figure it out. And the same thing with my dad, his blood pressure and stuff was alternatives, reaching out to people who were really well versed in traditional medicine stuff and the right teas and stuff to bring his blood pressure down so that he didn't have to take that because he didn't want to really, yeah.
But important to remember, it's still like, there's an active ingredient in there, like you said earlier, that is similar to the manufactured one.
Yeah.
Always, you know, so there's not, it's not risk free.
Absolutely. Okay, so understanding privilege and racism. This is the part that can get kind of scary and activating for people. So I want, you know, like folks to take a and just kind of like be open to it. Because this isn't meant to trigger anyone. It isn't meant to create like hostility or anything like that. It's supposed to open discussion and to create understanding and dialogue. Because I don't know about any of you, but like mixed, you know, I'm very, very mixed. And I think a lot of us are. And we can't speak to, you know, like everyone, their experiences and stuff. But, um, you know, like we all come from different backgrounds and stuff. And it's important to have these discussions, to understand where these biases come in and all these different things, and to work to serve better. That's what this is. It's not about, you know, like creating divisions or anything like that. I don't know, it's 10:30, a break.
I don't, when's your segment?
So
Yeah, maybe so, and then finish up.
get through the last bit.
Just a quick break, 5, 10 minutes, please.